Welcome to On the Beam, which is our newest section here in accessmedia.live. I am Jessie Pineda, and today I'm both very excited and incredibly honored to welcome Lady Moira Bramley. Welcome, Moira.
Thank you so much, Jess, and it's lovely to meet you. Thank you.
It's great meeting you too, and I'm really truly excited about meeting you and having this chance of talking to you. I've been reading some of your articles and I've watched some of your videos, and there's just so many questions I have that maybe we'll get a chance to answer some of them right here, right? Moira is a certified facilitator for Access Consciousness, and you're also a Being You certified facilitator, right? And with these two, with these certifications and you being a facilitator and you talking about money and being you, I started reading about the way that your life started, the way in which you came into this world and how it has changed to what it is today. And it is amazing to recognize that possibilities actually exist. When I started reading an article that you wrote in which you spoke of being 10 years old and walking to school with holes on your shoes, actually putting bags over your shoes so your socks would not get wet, and then knowing that today you are a shareholder in the castle, it just brings so many questions. How did you come to be the lady of the castle today when you started out in a very different way?
To be honest, I think poverty forced me into demand. I chose to be born in a very cold country for 4 or 5 months of the year. It's very cold in Scotland. And I literally had insufficient clothing. And I had always had my sister, who was 18 months older than me. I had her, what we call hand-me-downs. So she was about this much bigger than me. And when it didn't fit her, I got it. And oftentimes it was the shoes as well. And the shoes were usually worn down on the heels or the inside, or, you know, so I would have shoes that would be shaping my body in a different way because they were worn by a different pair of feet and a whole different, you know, balance. And so it was pretty interesting. And I remember one year in particular where I had holes in both shoes, and my mother promised me shoes at the end of that year, but I had to go through quite a lot of snow and quite a lot of rain, and I put plastic bags on my socks and then I put the shoes on. Wow. And then when I got to school, I put the shoes on the radiator. But I remember looking around at everybody else's feet going, am I the only person that has holes in their shoes? And I was.
And you were.
Yeah.
And how did you not buy the story that was the life that you were meant to have?
Because I watched everybody else having shoes with no holes in, and I was like, okay, something has to be different here. And I had a father who was an alcoholic and who took every penny he could out of my mother's purse. So I was just like, well, I'm not having that. I'm having money. I'm going to have a man who will rescue me from this poverty. I watched the movie Oliver, and I was like, I'm going to have a man that rescues me from this. And that came with a price as well. I chose my father, but somebody who was an entrepreneur, a guy who is awesome in business. We're not together anymore, but basically somebody who totally functioned from what else is possible in business. So I had a very easy living with him. I had a very financially easy time. The downside is I wasn't being creative in any other way, which is something that I love to talk about, because you find a lot of who you be through creation. So yeah, so I just watched and looked around and went, okay, what would I like? It's not going to be this. And I befriended a girl who moved into some private houses that were just built across a field from where I lived, in a government house. And I befriended her. And she was, in my books, she was very wealthy. And I spent more time at her house and with her family than I did mine.
And in that part of your life is when I remember you saying that she had a TV, but it was different than yours, and she had
It
like
worked.
like she had carpet on the floor and you had a linoleum floor, and that made you notice the differences and the possibilities, right? But you had to actually had something that was different from everyone else, so you noticed that that was actually available to you.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of a hedonist. So when I was like, oh my God, it's so much more enjoyable to be at her place. And she had they had a car, we didn't have a car, you know, and they would drive me home at night. And that level of, you know, being looked after and care, they would take me to hotels on Sundays. They would drive for an hour for Sunday lunch. And I'm like, oh my God, this is very indulgent and hedonistic. And I was like, I'm having that. You know, so being around that family, I became the energy of the amount of money that they were willing to have and the lifestyle that they were willing to have. And then when I left school, that wasn't enough for me. It wasn't enough. I was like, okay, they live in a beautiful house, but it's not enough. I wanted a mansion. I wanted a big place, and I got it. You know, I wanted, and it wasn't giving me because I wasn't the one doing the creation. I was the generative energy behind the money, but it wasn't me that was not that you have to institute to create, but basically I chose somebody who was brilliant in business and pulled in money and just sat back and didn't have to engage with life. So that was a great choice and a not so bright choice at the same time.
Which gave you sort of possibilities, but not really what you wanted to choose, right?
Oh, it gave me total possibility because I could travel anywhere I wanted. I had money to do anything that I wanted to, but the longer I didn't create, the more I bought into I can't create.
You said once that you were rich, but you didn't have wealth.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, which is, you know, there are many people I know that are rich. They have a lot of money. Rich is you have riches, you have, you know, whatever it is for you, jewelry and a nice house and a beautiful car and whatever. But wealth is knowing that you're the source of that creation. So, I mean, it's often said that when people win money or they inherit money, they lose it very fast because they've never had to create themselves. And funnily enough, that family that I befriended, when the mother died, there was no father, but when the mother died and the brother, who was not the nicest of people, left the house, the young woman who I had befriended lost everything. She ended up with no money and struggling with 2 children and a husband that wasn't the best person for her. And, you know, so wealth is where you know that you're the source, that you can ask and receive and that you can choose and create. And it's something that I'm very into right now. I'm very excited about is creation. So when you know that you can create, that's wealth. You know that you can lose everything and tomorrow you can just start again. That's wealth, when you know that you're the source.
And when you know that you have your own back, because that you're mentioning is knowing that you have your own back, that you can start over again and again and again if it's the case.
Yeah.
I completely lost track of my question for a second. Once that you have decided that you want a different life and you start creating and you recognize that you are the source of the creation of your life, you change your life. But most people, when they hear your story, when we hear your story, we think of it as a fairy tale. Like you started in a place in which you had very little, and now you are the lady of the castle, literally. And we don't know where to start.
What if life really could be, if you choose it? What if it is like, what if this universe that we live in is like a fairy tale? I mean, it's full of magic. What if it's just acknowledging that, asking? So whatever you ask, if you're truly willing to receive it, it will come. So if you ask, universe, show me that I am the source of what I create, what's going on in my life, I'm creating it. And you stay in the question, you will discover that everything you choose creates something.
And would you say that that's the start?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I knew, I had no doubt when I asked for my husband to show up. My point of view was, at school, I had learning difficulties, and basically my mother and father had the point of view that I would end up in the woolen mill, which I did initially, the local woolen mill, on a pin drafting machine, winding wool around a bobbins on a machine. And that's where I started. That's what I started with. They basically their point of view was, oh, that's what she's going to do. And then she's going to get married and have kids. And that was what was projected at me. And then at school, what was projected at me is, oh, she's really not very bright. She's useless at math. She can't write linearly. She's like, anything to do with numbers, she's chemistry, all of that. I was just like, fail. And I really wasn't interested and I didn't want to do it. So I had that projected at me dynamically that I wasn't going to do well, and I bought it. I believed it. And yet somewhere I knew that I was way greater. I just couldn't do. That was my point of view. I couldn't do. But what if you don't have to do? I mean, I'm in businesses right now with other people, and I'm not the one who does.
You
and
are
Gary,
like,
Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, kept saying to me, just be what you are. You just have to walk into the castle and you'll create what's, and I just couldn't receive that. My point of view was, oh, you think I'm not clever enough to, do this, that, and the next thing. And I was weird for a long time. I was like, yeah, I can do. And it's only not that long ago that I'm like, okay, I can just choose and have other people do what I require to be done. And me
you wrote on an article, I read it, that you said we have been programmed into thinking and knowing, into thinking that we know who we are and that we are supposed to be. And that is something that we sometimes, many times, find difficult to change.
Yes, I know. It's something that we are absolutely determined to hold in place, huh? When I used to walk home from school, I don't know, I really honestly to this day I still ask the question, was that entities, or was that me? Was it, because I just kept hearing, you're way greater than what's being projected at you. You're not who you think you are. That was, I spent a lot of time on my own, and school was a long way away from my home. And I spent a lot of time just walking and asking questions, even like, how does my body want to move? What would it take to get home really fast and really easily, So I spent a lot of time asking, like, who am I? Who would I be if I wasn't at this school and I didn't have the reputation that I did? A father who's an alcoholic, like not very bright at school, poor, holes in the shoes. And who would I be if I didn't have all of this going on? So I just chose to create my life differently. Not what would have been the greatest way to have me at the time. It was a way to opt out of having to deal with everything I thought I couldn't do,
And that just
to run my life for me.
And that you just mentioned, it's actually something that happens a lot. We sometimes choose things that open up possibilities, but it may not be the greatest choice. Still, it gives us more.
You know what it did give me, Jessie? What it gave me was, very quickly, I got to the awareness of, I never made money. I never created my image based on how much money I had. And when I met people in Access Consciousness, especially Gary Douglas, he said, you don't really, you be money, but you don't really show that. You don't go about saying I've got money or acting like you have money. You just be money. It's very unusual. I was like, yeah, I mean, whether I've got money or no money, and I know I can say, people will think, oh, it's easy for you to say that because you have money. But truly, if I had no money, I wouldn't be any less than I am today. I wouldn't make myself less, because I am the energies that I am. How much money we have is not who we be. The house you live in is not who you be. You can make it your image and your identity, but if that's taken away, where are you? You're prostrate on your face. We're like, I'm nobody.
Do you think that there's any way in which you can be well and not being you?
No, you can't. If you're wealthy, you know that you're not a set of limitations and a set of judgments, a set of an image. You can't be, so image locks you up. If you have image, you have need of other people's approval, you have need of being liked, you're in prison. You imprison yourself with your identity.
So it really requires being you to having access to everything that is available for you right there.
Yeah.
And this is in wealth and in life, right?
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. If you truly would like to live and have everything you desire, you have to not be bothered about whether your family is going to ask for your money, or whether people are going to judge you because you're greedy, or whether whatever your points of view are, whether you're people have so many points of view about having money. I've never really gotten it. I've never really understood it. Like, be poor and have judgment, or be free of it and just have money. To me, it's a no-brainer.
But it's just that some of us, or many of us, don't know anything different, right? Until we actually hear someone like you say it, and then we start waking up. But waking up is also a choice. Changing these points of view is also a choice.
Yeah, that's very true. When I lived with my mother and father, when I had my first job, the very first job before the woolen mill, I was in a Sony centre that sold hi-fi equipment and TVs, etc. Yeah. And the woman said to me, you can buy anything you want, and we'll just take it off your wages every week. So I was so excited. I took a brand new state-of-the-art colour TV home. And I was so proud, because we had this black and white TV that used to burl the picture and used to have to hit the side of the TV to stop the burling so you could watch it. And I took it home, and it changed the energy in the house. And then I started to add to the house each week with my wages. I put money away, and I bought a fridge freezer. We had no fridge freezer. Then I bought a telephone. And when the phone used to ring, all I heard was in the ring was wealth. I'm like, oh my God, I bought the family a phone, and then I bought a beautiful rug for in front of the fire. And I started to change the energy in the home. But I didn't know at the time, I wasn't willing to know at the time, but my mother and father couldn't receive it. And I remember asking a question in one of the Access Consciousness classes one time. My father was an alcoholic, as I said, and he used to come home from AA meetings. And one of the things that he would always say, people don't know that they don't know. And I'm like, okay, for a long time, I bought that I was feeling sorry for people and doing, crazy shit. But I bought people houses and, which did not make their lives greater. And I said it for the 100th time, I said it in class, but Gary, people don't know that they don't know. And he said to me, he really got intense with me. And he says, you know why they don't know? And he says, because they don't ask a question. And I'm like, holy shit, that changed my whole life. You're asking a question. There are other people asking a question, but there are so many people that feel sad for people who don't have money and think they don't know. The people who are stepping more and more toward money, they're asking questions.
Yes, and we are set on that because we are set on conclusions because of what we have lived, and we make of the story of our life our truth.
Yes, but then you have used exactly, but you are asking questions, and you are like, oh my God, I can see there's somebody who's done it and who's doing it, and like, wow, okay, that. But you had to have a question, Jessie, in your world to come across me even. Mm-hmm. So the people who don't, if you have the point of view that men are unkind, you can't see kind men. Mm-hmm. Because you're in that point of view. So if you're in the point of view money's bad and wrong, and people are bad and wrong for having it, that's your life. That's all you see. There's nothing. It's only when you ask a question, wow, I wonder if I could have that. I wonder what it would take for me to have what she's having and being, wow. So it has to come from a question.
And that opens a whole different space. You really start noticing
But
what else is here available.
The desire is there in the first place. That want is there. So when you know, I used to often be sad for people like, oh my God, that person's struggling so much. And then I would go, oh, okay, they're not asking a question. And it's not because they don't know to not ask a question. They just don't want. When I say they don't want, they want. They don't ask. You know, it's not a desire in their world. Truly isn't.
And they are just somehow living the life that they are living and very fitting to that and being uncomfortably comfortable in that life, right? There's many people who live like that.
Yeah. In a comfortable rut. Now, I know that this will anger a lot of people because a lot of people are like, even I had a conversation with somebody last night who called me from a course that she was on. And she's like, I just had quite an intense conversation with somebody and I'm quite upset about it. Can you help me? And I started to facilitate her. No, she did not want to hear that she loved the trauma and drama. So do you see what I'm saying? Like, if there's no question there, you can't change the energy you be. You can't open yourself up to more question and more choice and more possibilities. You can't. You're in that conclusion of, I'm right. My judgment and my points of view are right. And there are so many people that make themselves greater than money. Money's less than. I'm better than money. Or I'm not good enough for money. But until somebody asks a question, if you really have that desire in your world, even if you have a sneaky look, you'll be like, oh, I wonder, oh, they've got that. Oh my God, that's like, wow. And then you would watch to see. I mean, when I spent time with my friend and I used to go to these beautiful hotels and everything, I would watch the people with money and I'd be like, okay, what did they be? You know, and I would watch all the energies in their world and take what I needed. Energetically, I'd just take what I needed. Okay, well, oh wow, look how they hold themselves. Look how look how confident they are. Look how they don't give themselves up. Look how they get what they want on their table. They order what they want. I would watch everything. Wow, look at that beautiful dress that woman has. And you can tell, that for her, that's normal. Like, wow, look at, she really looks after her clothes, everything, like literally everything.
So aside from the question, you were also present in the energies that you were willing to bring to your world.
Oh, it was such a need in my world. It was such a demand. It was such an ask. It was like, there's no way that I can continue to live as I'm living. And my friend was a beautiful influence because she, I remember she just used to open her wardrobe and she had all these beautiful brand new clothes. And I was nightclubbing it when I was 16. And I literally remember going out with a t-shirt, a pair of jeans, and I remember having a safety pin to hold my zip closed. I literally had a safety pin in my zip to keep it closed. And I used to pull my t-shirt down over the top of it, hoping that nobody would see this safety pin. And I just watched what it would be like to have this beautiful wardrobe with silk and cashmere. And I used to watch her get ready and I was like, wow, what a life you have. She would get chauffeured in the morning to where she was going and she'd get picked up. We would get dropped off at nightclubs and her mother would make sure she got picked up. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. It was like, I had gone from hell to heaven. I was like, we used to leave our sitting room to go use the bathroom upstairs. And in the winter, we would run because it was like going outside. And you did the toilet fast and got back downstairs to the fire. So I was like, oh my God, my bed was damp. The ice was on the inside of my bedroom window. They had heating in every room and plush carpets and silk sheets. And I was like, oh my God, I came into the wrong family.
But actually you chose very well your family, because from there is that you started to create the life that you have, which is now the invitation for others
Yeah.
to create a life like that. If someone knows about making money and creating wealth, is you, Moira. So it is awesome that you want to share it with the rest of the world, that you're willing to do that. So because that actually creates more, and the more there is, the less lack, the less need, the more joy in the world.
I've just started to create, and I'm excited to be able to share that with other people, to be honest. I mean, when Gary was here at the castle, Gary Douglas, sorry for people who don't know, the founder of Access Consciousness, he was taking me to Torino, to where it's a big centre for antiques, and he was just looking to see if I was interested in starting to buy antiques, and I was like, oh, you know, not enough money, not enough money, not enough money, and I wasn't interested. It's only now that I've started to buy antiques and selling antiques. I'm like, oh my God, there is money to be made and fun to be had, learning about antiques and learning what, you know, I'm selling to an English market, you know, learning what I can buy in Italy and sell in England, you know, and this is creativity that I never had to use. It's just too much money, don't need to, it's like dying, you know, don't need to do anything. Don't need to. I don't need to go to antique markets and start bargaining with people. You know, I didn't get the fun in it, and how much more of you it gives you. You know, I have businesses with my son, and I'm learning still. I'll use the word learning still to co-create. I never had to co-create. I've never had to co-create. Starving of so much of me that, you know, some people will get very offended by, but manipulation. There's a way to manipulate that creates more. And I don't mean manipulate into being selfish and mean, and, you know, I don't mean in that way, but, you know, you don't, when I was living my secluded life that I didn't have to do anything, I didn't know the price of anything, you know. I had a chef, you know, when I was living with my husband, and it was only when I came to Italy that I've started to now create my life.
And you're enjoying it more.
Way more.
Way more.
It's exciting. And I won't stop until I've created big businesses and with lots of money, not just one business.
And once that you start creating, that is something that you probably won't want to stop, because it's not about the amount of money that you have, but about the ability to create and create and create.
Yeah, it's the creation. And the becoming more aware of what I can be and what I can receive.
We have a question from the Facebook group, Moira. It says, when you say create, where do you start?
You literally start by asking a question, but no, first you acknowledge. You have to acknowledge what it is you would like. What would you like? And for me, it was always more of me. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Wow. I forgot we opened up that question. So when I chose to have money and not to create, like I said, I was dying. Wow, it's gone again. That's so funny. Wow. Sorry. Ask me that question again. I just remembered that I didn't answer the question. It disappeared again.
I know it happens. It happened to me
just
a little while ago.
Yeah. So
when you say create, where do you start? So where do you start creating?
An energetic choice is the start. So you choose, literally, I'm not living like this. I'm having something different. And then another question will come. So first of all, you've got that choice. I'm not living like this. I would like to go do this when I want to go do it. I'd like to buy this when I want to buy it. That's a choice. But it has to be a true choice, not just, oh, I would like to choose that. You know, and a lot of people get confused by that. They think they like the idea of having something, but they don't actually choose to have it. You know, when I chose the husband that I chose, there was no doubt in my mind that that person was not going to show up. I knew that person was going to show up. No doubt whatsoever. And then he showed up. Took 4 years. Now, most people give up. But I was young when I chose it, so there's no wonder it took 4 years. I chose it when I was like 12, 13 or something, you know. And he showed up when I was young. But it took 4 years. From the day I chose to have money, it took 4 years for him to show up. And then I beat what it was that I was required to be in order to have money and more money and more money. And he was shocked. He was like, oh my God, it keeps coming. Like, what wow. And he got to his limit. And that was one of the reasons we separated. He would never get beyond a certain amount of millions, and then he would have to destroy it. You know, so the first step to creation is actually choosing. And then what would it take for me to have this? And then, you know, like one of the companies, well, we could go to the antiques. So one day I went to the market with my son and his wife, and she bought this beautiful candle made of uranium. It was beautiful, elegant green uranium's green, and it glows under UV light. And she brought it home and she went, oh my God, I love this candle. And I said, have a look on Etsy and eBay and all around, you know, First Dibs. You never know, there might be another one and you can get a pair. And as she started to look, she paid 30 euros for this candle. And as she started to look, she went, this candle's worth 500 euros. And I'm like, awesome, good find, you know. So I'm like, I wonder what else is at the market that is worth way more than the sellers there know. So the next week I went and I was like, okay. And I was looking at things knowing I could get this amount of money for that. I could get that amount of money for this. And things that people were selling for very small amounts of money, I could put 3 and 4 times the money on it, you know. So, I mean, what is it that you enjoy that could be the tiniest thing, you know? And yet last night I was looking for something on Etsy that to make it would cost 2 euros. And I was like, holy shit, they're selling them for 24, 25 euros. So this week I'm contacting factories because I need it for one of my businesses. So this week I'll be contacting a load of factories in UK to have it made. So it's like, you have to choose something in order for it to open up to, I mean, this is a product in itself, you know? So you have to choose something, and it could be anything. It could be starting to grow hydroponics and selling it to your neighbors, and then open it up to one of the local restaurants, or, you know, it can be anything. But where we've been trained to go is, oh, that's not going to make me very much money, or that's not going to be that much fun to do, or I don't know how many times I'll get that wrong before I get it right. You know, I don't know if I really want to do that. But most people do it in their head and have all the difficulties and problems, but it's in the actual doing it that you start to have more of you if you choose to do it from, which is a whole other topic, if you choose to do it from being and contribution. I remember getting cross at the castle because this guy wouldn't sweep the cobbles properly. He didn't want to be there, and I knew he didn't want to be there. And I kept saying, this guy doesn't want to be here. He's not doing anything as a contribution. He's doing it because he has to. So when everybody went home that night, that I was just like, okay, I'm going to go sweep. And it's a long driveway in the castle. But I went out there. It's not the easiest driveway to sweep. Every single cobble has been hand laid, and the cobbles are only this size. And it's like, when you add it all together, it's like, it's a lot of cobbles. It's a long driveway. And I went out and I started to sweep this driveway. And I got the energy of contribution way more than I ever got it. I was sweeping the driveway, not just for me, not just for the people who was going to see it, but just for the beauty and the contribution, you know, that I could be for everything. Like the people, the driveway, me, beauty itself. Beauty itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I swept the driveway with so much joy. I was like, wow. And I received the contribution that I was being for me. You know, David Carey is a guy who, he's doing Elgar. I remember saying to him in the castle when I first went there to find a builder, and then the builder was not working. They would not listen to a blonde foreign woman. And Gary says, okay, I'm going to send David Carey. He'll do it. you know. And David came, and I remember him being so tired. He came in the winter, it was freezing. And I'm just talking about contribution because that's all part of creation, yeah? And I remember saying to him at night, he would be in the castle because all the windows and doors were gone, and he'd be in the castle in his ski suit. And at night, he would be sweeping the floors. And I'm like, David, you don't have to do that. Why are you doing this? Why are you sweeping the floor when work is finished? And he said, Moira, this is my way of connecting with the castle. And I just get to process everything and just, you know, just be. And it was only when I swept the driveway that I got it.
Yes.
It's just your way of connecting with all the molecules, you know? And that's where creation from being comes from. So creation's creation, and you can deepen your connection with everything and create. The more you do that and the more present you get, the more creative capacity you have. So it's a big topic. It's not like, you know, and anyway, I'm aware that somebody's waiting on me. I said, oh, it'll be 15 minutes and I've been like half an hour. So we can jump on another time. And I have a How to Become Money workbook that starts on Monday.
Yes.
If anybody listens to this, that's available. But the Being You class is, do you guys know when it is? I think it's
August, no, it's September 7th.
September 7th. And it's, this one is on creation, being you and creation. So if anybody would like to join, you've had a taste, and I really have to go. And thank you so much, Jessica.
Thank you, Moira. We really have a lot of questions and a lot of things to talk about. If you ever want to come back to On the Beam, this is your house.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You have a beautiful day. Thank you to everyone that has been here with us. Enjoy your Saturday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.